This video is going to describe the structure of the heart along with the circulatory system. First thing to do when you look at the structure of the heart is orientate yourself with it. Notice on this diagram it calls this the right atrium and this one the left atrium. Whenever we label a diagram of a heart, we always label it as if it was actually your heart in your body. So on a diagram form, the left and right are swapped over. So let's start with deoxygenated blood returning to the heart via the vena cava. The superior vena cava delivers deoxygenated blood from the head to the heart, and the inferior vena cava is bringing deoxygenated blood from the rest of the body. It enters the right atrium. It then travels through the tricuspid valve. These valves prevent the backflow of blood when the ventricle contracts. So it travels from the right atrium through the tricuspid valve and then into the right ventricle. The ventricle will then contract and blood is forced through a semilunar valve and out of the pulmonary artery. This artery takes the deoxygenated blood to the lungs where it's able to pick up oxygen. The blood then returns to the heart via the pulmonary vein. This label is actually slightly wrong. It should be the pulmonary vein. So blood returns from the lungs into via the pulmonary vein into the left atrium. It then travels through the bicuspid valve, which once again is going to prevent backflow of blood. It travels into the left ventricle. The ventricle then contracts and blood is forced out of the aorta, where it travels to the rest of the body. Notice on the diagram, the blue is representing deoxygenated blood and the red is representing oxygenated blood. So here we have a diagram representing the circulatory system. Let's start here where I'm drawing that X there. That would be the vena cava. So blood enters the right atrium from the vena cava into the right ventricle. It is then pumped out of the right ventricle via the pulmonary artery and it travels to the lungs where it picks up oxygen. The oxygenated blood then travels down the pulmonary vein to the left atrium, then travels into the left ventricle. Blood is then pumped out of the left ventricle via the aorta to the body. Now it will either split and then go deliver the oxygen to the brain, or it can split and deliver oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. At these points here and here, these will be the capillaries, where oxygen is diffused out of the blood into respiring cells, and CO2 will diffuse out of the respiring cells into the blood. The deoxygenated blood will then travel back via a vein back via the vena cava to the right ventricle again. Notice on this diagram again, the red colour is representing oxygenated blood and the blue is representing deoxygenated blood. Arteries take blood away from the heart and veins take blood back to the heart. Arteries usually carry oxygenated blood, except for the pulmonary artery. Veins usually carry deoxygenated blood, except for the pulmonary vein. Now let's have a look at some of the blood vessels that are found in the body. First, let's have a look at arteries. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. The blood in arteries has to be under very high pressure so it can reach all the parts of the body. Arteries have a strong, thick wall to them, and they also have a small lumen. That's the hole in the middle of the artery where the blood travels through. That small lumen creates a very high pressure. blood will then travel to capillaries. Now, capillaries allow substances to diffuse into and out of the blood into the cells in tissues. To help this process, capillaries have very thin walls. In fact, they're 1 cell thick. This enables easy diffusion of gases, for example, oxygen and carbon dioxide. And finally, veins transport blood back to the heart. Blood is transported under very low pressure in veins. This is because it has quite a wide lumen, so a hole in the middle of the vein, compared to the lumen of the artery. So it's under very low pressure. This makes it quite difficult for blood to return to the heart. So often they have valves in these veins to prevent the backflow of blood. For the exam, you will need to be able to label a diagram of the heart. You will need to try and understand the circulatory system, whilst also be able to describe the difference in structure between arteries, veins and capillaries.